Hi everyone, I am with Michael Dunmore, who's a senior associate at AMJ. He is with the arbitration practice. He's based in Oman, and I am so happy to see you. Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the Daily Lawyer Podcast.
Thank you.
I think you have to, in all fairness, introduce yourself with the full name of the firm.
Okay, so I'm Michael Dunmore. I'm a senior associate with Busaidy Mansoor Jamal in Oman. We're the largest law firm and oldest law firm in Oman. And we're a full-service law firm, and I work in the arbitration disputes practice.
Okay, I really am so interested in knowing that from Muscat to Bombay or to here, to India, what really is happening in the international arbitration space and the international mediation space between these two countries, and how are you working with, say, India, and how does India feature on this map?
So I'm working extensively with a number of Indian clients doing arbitrations and disputes in Oman. I have one very large ongoing dispute in Oman involving an Indian company. In the last 3 months, I think I've been to India 4 times to come and work with them, to all over India, to Calcutta, Bhubaneswar, and Paradeep in the last 2 months.
Okay, so is it like a port-related, maritime-related arbitration?
We can't talk about the matter, but there's a lot of Indian investment in Oman and in the GCC region, so it's keeping us quite busy.
And what are the trends that you see in terms of international arbitration out of India, coming into India? What do you think is happening?
From an Omani perspective, I see a lot of Indian companies doing business in Oman. There's a lot of infrastructure projects over there, and there's a lot of well-placed Indian companies to do the work. So we see a ton of large Indian companies all working over there in Dubai, and I think Saudi as well too. There's a lot of activity.
So these are Indian companies that have a presence over there, that are arbitrating there? They're like,
correct.
Okay.
Indian companies doing business there, and then they're arbitrating in Oman or in Dubai.
And typically, do you see the trend as being institutional arbitration, or do you see ad hoc? What do you see the typical trend as being?
So in Oman, if you're doing a large infrastructure project with the government, you end up doing ad hoc arbitration just as a matter of how the cards fall. But I see as a general trend over there more institutional arbitration, which is something that I would prefer. But in the context of certain projects, it always ends up being an ad hoc arbitration, because traditionally that's the way it is.
That's the way they've been doing it.
That's what's included in the Omani standard form contract, is to do ad hoc arbitration. So it's part and parcel of the way it all sort of goes.
And how does the legal framework from a conflict of laws perspective work? Do they use Omani law? Do they use English law?
Omani law is pretty much Omani law in all of the, at least its government contracts. We see a bit of English law, but it's predominantly Omani law. Even if it's not a construction dispute, most parties do choose English law. Yeah, but the larger the dispute, I mean, the arbitrators end up being the same people who be deciding large disputes in London anyway. So I'm not sure if they're implementing their ways or their know-how into the disputes.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, because in that sense, then the arbitrators need to be familiar with the local law. And does that happen, or do you have experts?
We have, well, usually we plead the law,
yeah.
But the arbitrators who are deciding the disputes, I think, even though they would be sitting, maybe living in London or Hong Kong, most of them would be somewhat familiar with GCC disputes. I think the UAE law is not that dissimilar to Omani law and transferable to what we're doing.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.